Welcome to this episode 33 of the South African Equestrian Federation, podcast from the horse's mouth. My name is Georgie Roberts, and tonight we're talking about an incredibly important topic in the equestrian space, a mandate that has been passed down to us by governance of the sporting bodies, and that is development. I am very pleased to introduce you tonight to our new National Development Officer, that is Mariette van Jaarsveld, as well as our in-studio guests, Dr Sheelagh Higgerty and Renae Erasmus, who are going to be talking about some projects that are very close to their heart. Mariette, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Mariette, can we begin by classifying what development is?
For us in this instance, all right, it's about uplifting and upskilling individuals, all right. Our main aim and focus is to grow people, okay, and to empower them in society.
That's a really lovely topic for us to be touching on now. Obviously, it's Youth Day on Friday, which is Renae's birthday. Gets to have a public holiday for her birthday every year. But the theme of Youth Day and Youth Month with the South African government is actually sustainable economic development for the youth. So I think it's really great that we're talking about this discussion this week. What is the difference between development and transformation? I just want to be clear about that for our listeners.
Transformation is focusing on changing the demographic of the profile of the sport, okay? So for athletes and for officials. We are at SAEF can change the demographic for officials, but the disciplines should implement a plan going forward within their structure for transformation for the athletes and for the officials. They should have their own plan. We can help them, but they should actually run their own plan.
So Mariette, if we can maybe skip forward a little bit, can we discuss a little bit what the roles and responsibilities are of the disciplines within development?
Well, like I said, they must come up with a plan and have structures put in within their disciplines for the development and for transformation. Like I said, we can assist them where we can. They need to just obviously contact us and help to run with programs if they've got programs in mind.
And should each discipline association have their own development committee?
I think it's vital that they do have their own committee to start plans. I see that showing is very active, running with programs and stuff. I believe that eventing has got people in place, development officers in place. Show jumping has.
DSA, of course, is running the wonderful Solidarity Stars project.
Yes, dressage has been phenomenal. I mean, since last year, they've been absolutely brilliant. They really have got a very good program, and they're doing very well with it.
The Solidarity Stars actually won the FEI's development project last year at the FEI Awards.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's really internationally recognized, the efforts that SAEF and DSA together put in on that.
Yeah, that was a very good program with a lot of people's input, and the riders were very good also on that program.
No, they've been fantastic. Where is South African Equestrian Federation sitting currently in their development plan? And I believe you've only joined the committee, I think 3 months ago?
Yeah. So it's been quite a short period. A little bit longer, but yeah.
And what have you inherited?
Well, I basically had to start from scratch. I don't know what the person before me did. I mean, so I started implementing new things, new structures, new modules and stuff to go forward, and new courses. So I had to build from nothing, basically.
And it's been a process, I think, of reaching out people like, sorry about that, to reaching out to people like Sheelagh and Renae to take on these projects. So volunteers are critical to the
Volunteers
sport.
are amazing. Renae's been absolutely amazing with the courses, especially with the grooms courses. Brett Weber has been very helpful in assisting with the arena assistance courses that we are running. We've got our first, well, we've obviously launched, well, years ago, 2019, the welfare course was launched with Sheila and Daniel Pinar, and there was a gentleman, Glenn, what is his surname?
Katzen.
That's it. But then COVID hit and nothing happened, you know. But it's we desperately need welfare officers, and we've got a course running now from next Saturday to Sunday, and we've already got 57 people that's applied to attend the course, which is phenomenal. It's a great turnout, yeah.
What are
So Sheila's got
SAEF's?
a work cut out for her.
Yeah, Sheila's ready for it. What are the South African Equestrian Federation's short, medium, and long-term goals for development?
Okay, so our short-term goals would be to create awareness and opportunity for individuals to get a stepping stone into the equestrian sport. To start with basic education, like the basic courses that we've been running, like the basic grooms course and arena assistance and official courses, you know, like for the officials, like officials in saying not judges and stewards, but for timekeepers, secretaries, scribes, and it's for all disciplines, not just for show jumping or dressage or equitation. It's all disciplines across the board. Then our medium goal would be to get people to properly qualify and to serve the sport in grooms committees and officials. We need to promote people and you know, get them into the right positions. Then our long term would be so that the equestrian sport has a wealth of experience, knowledgeable people, education, people that will be able to sustain professional levels, high standards within our sports. You know, and to also keep up the high standards. Like, I mean, you can start small at a provincial level judge or a whatever you're talking, but you can work yourself all the way up to FEI. But we need to keep the standards high and promote people and assist people where we can.
I think that also speaks to a long-term career plan, which is actually really fantastic. So it's keeping a lot of the jobs in the equestrian space moving forward.
Absolutely.
So Mariette, you mentioned the Grooms Committee as being one of your medium-term goals for the sport to have. I'm sure that's also within the disciplines.
Yes.
And will you tell me a little bit about what that would look like?
What, the grooms?
Yeah, just having a Grooms Committee.
I think it would be quite interesting if we can get to that point where we can have a Grooms Committee. But then it should be also by each discipline should form their own Grooms Committee. You know what I mean? And I'm sure it can work. It should work. It must work.
It's fantastic to give them the recognition for what they do, because the grooms are such a critical part in South Africa of our support structure and making the sport happen.
Absolutely. And myself and Renae were talking the other day that we are trying to identify like the top, well, let's talk, the top grooms in each session now that we've done. We've done 3 courses, and Renae can vouch for it. There's some really outstanding, knowledgeable grooms. And we work for Equasa, you know, for the grooms courses. And they've now approached us and said, maybe we should look at taking and go further and maybe get credits for them if they've done the course and they've passed the exam that we set. And that credits can go towards module 1 and 2 for the actual Equasa examination for the grooms, which is great. And then we are going to look at maybe identifying 1 or 2 or a couple of grooms that show interest and it's got the potential to take them all the way up the modules in Equasa.
And Equasa is
Module
the
5.
Equine Qualifications Authority of South Africa, correct? Okay, just checking.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
So Mariette, you've mentioned the welfare program and the grooms program. Are there any other programs that you're currently running or preparing to run?
We are also running at this point in time a arena assistance course. So that is basically it. When you're at a venue, a top venue or a normal venue, and maybe don't even have to have a venue if you just run a yard, and you've got grooms or people that's at the yard, and you are building a track. Yeah, that's important. If you want to put up a track and the striding and the distances and whatever else is wrong, so we upskilling them to be able to assist a course designer at an event. So what happens is, like for instance, if a top designer come out to build at a World Cup, it takes them a half a day to a day to get the arena assistant guys that's working there to know how to put up a track and how to measure a distance. Whereas if we can do that beforehand, you know what I mean, then they can just run with it and work. They can then also be identified, and we can help them to promote them if they show interest to become qualified course designers.
It also just maximizes the time we've got with those experts in the country, which is fantastic.
Absolutely. And it also shows the people from overseas, you know, we are actually moving forward, you know what I mean? They don't have to like battle with people that don't know what side is the flag should be on, or the pole should be level or square, or you know, so it's very good. And then I'm in the process now to roll out a training program for positions in boxes. So that is for like your timekeeper, your scribe,
Oh, nice.
your secretary,
It's
your
Mariette,
announcer.
it's much safer the further you are away from a horse. So I think that's an excellent initiative.
And also a gate marshal. We're not doing stewarding and we're not doing judges. But again, should there be someone, and that can also create income for people. If they get that skill and they sort it, they can go to shows and work and earn some income. Also, if they show interest, they can go on a proper show jumping judge course or a steward course and work up the ladder.
But I suppose that's where the overlap of where the National Federation and the disciplines comes in.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's where they must then take over their disciplines and run with the officials.
And Mariette, what are some of the obstructions to development? I mean, the two that I can think of are funding and volunteers to actually drive it. I don't know if there are other ones, but can we discuss those?
Funding, I think, is a problem. Luckily, we're in a position that you can apply. I mean, and again, all the disciplines should apply for lotto funding. I know that there was a form sent out for lotto funding requirements that if they want to have funding, they must put a amount through, and Charlene will submit it. I know that one or two disciplines hasn't done it yet. So they need to get it in, and then again, they need to get a dedicated development officer to run with that. So funding is a problem, and it's expensive to run these courses and to skill people, you know. So not always available. Funding is a big problem.
But like you say, is that overlap of actually funding and volunteers, where if we have passionate volunteers to drive it, they will get the funding. And I know that FEI also runs really fantastic funding mechanisms that are available for people to apply through. So it's about that great National Federation Discipline Association communication. But I know for a fact through FEI, I don't know about through Lotto, that if your channels aren't in place correctly and protocols aren't followed, that's one of the criteria in order for you to get that funding, correct?
Absolutely. It has to be followed correctly.
Mariette, if people do want to volunteer or get involved with development, what is the best way for them to do that?
They can contact me anytime. They can just drop me an email or they can phone me. And then we can get in touch and we can sort it out. There was a group, I think it's the instructors or coaches group.
Mm.
And there was a young lady on there that always, for instance, always at school shows. Okay, she's a
We're going to have you here a lot more often.
Thank you. I could speak about welfare for the entire talk, so I don't want to take Renae's time away.
I think it's important if I can, before we begin, because then I know I won't get a word in with you, Sheelagh, but in light of, and we had the FEI AGM out here last year, the General Assembly, that the welfare element is drawing critical focus throughout the disciplines in the FEI. So it is an incredibly important topic. And why is that, Sheelagh?
Well, it's important because we deal with an animal that has no voice. And the FEI, for every official who becomes an FEI official, be it a judge, be it a vet, be it a steward, be it a testing technician, you sign their code of conduct. And this code of conduct is that at all times the welfare of the horse is paramount and that it can never be subordinated to competitive issues or commercial influences. So they're very, very clear that their prime importance is the welfare of the horse, and the veterinary regulations are there for the welfare of the horse. And they deem the welfare of the horse is actually quite interesting. It's what they call general welfare, and that's good horse management, so stable management, training methods, how you train the horse, It must be fit for the level of competition. You can't take a novice horse into a
nice.
FEI 3-star event or something. The farrier and tack, so it's how you shoe your horse, what tack you use. The disciplines, the individual disciplines have specific tack regulations, but the tack and the FEI I know is trying to make it uniform across the disciplines, that we speak with one mouth. And why,
That's
in
interesting,
terms
yeah.
of tack, why should a certain bit be illegal in one discipline because it's deemed to be cruel, but it's allowed in another?
And really, I mean, you and I were sitting in on that discussion. It got
Yeah.
very heated, but
Yeah.
very, very, very good. And I just want to take this moment to mention that there is an FEI TAC app that you can download on your phone to check what's legal. And
Yes,
okay,
you can. Transport and transit. So, it's to do with what vehicle do you transport your horses in. Then they talk about welfare's also been fitness to compete. So it's not just trotting your horse out and seeing whether it's lame. Is it fit and competent?
have
for
you
the-
conditioned it correctly to do
Yes,
the job?
Yeah. It's health status. That's why we have these vet checks. This is why we have horse examinations. Doping and medication, which is very important, that horses should not compete under having been doped or provided with analgesics, because you can have catastrophic injuries. Surgical procedures, they're not allowed to compete following certain surgical procedures, not allowed to compete after the 4th month of pregnancy, and then the misuse of aids. And, we've taken somebody later complained about cruelty, and there's no time frame on it.
Oh,
And we
okay.
were actually, successful. So it was through the FEI.
There've been a few questions about this lately. If somebody does see something, and maybe I'm jumping ahead in our discussion, but if someone does see something untoward at a show, what is the protocol, Sheila? How does someone escalate this?
Well, I think it needs to, the first person at that show would be somebody like the president of the ground jury, or if there's a veterinarian there. Then they can lay a complaint through their discipline, who can then either escalate it to the SAEF. If they do not get satisfaction, they can then escalate it to the SAEF. But it's much better to do it through
The correct channels.
through the correct channels. I also think, because I think you've got to be very clear about it. I did have a complaint, and it was not clear. The photographs did not,
Okay.
what can I say, did not support the complaint. So also other witnesses, we found in the past that people don't want to get involved, so they don't want to make a statement. Usually complaints must be in an affidavit form, which means you have to sign that it's the truth, and you have to get a commissioner of oaths to do it, but that's not difficult. I just want to go back to
Yes, please.
what the welfare encompasses, and it must be that the events must not prejudice the horse welfare. So when you plan to have an event, when you plan a course, it must not be prejudicial to the welfare of the horse. So we're talking about competition arenas. What is the going like? Horses can cope with
That's great.
hard going. They can also cope with soft going, but you need to train them in the similar arena at home as you're going to be competing in. Horses don't cope with hard and soft in the same arena. Ground surfaces, that's part of it. Weather. So when you plan a competition and the competition arrives, you've got to be really aware that suddenly we don't know months in advance what the weather's going to be like, but suddenly you can have a heat wave, and you have to take that into consideration, obviously for the welfare of the horse, or it could be extreme cold.
Or flooding, like the Cape is having.
Yeah. So weather's important. Stabling. What are the stables like at events, and also
It's
at
quite a
home?
big umbrella.
It's huge. Then there's the humane treatment of horses. Veterinary treatment. Veterinary treatment should be sought timelessly. It's important that at any of these FEI shows, we have to nominate a referral centre. So if there's an injury and the horse has to be rushed for surgery, we have a referral centre that has been notified we can send them to. Competition injuries, the FEI maintain a record of all these competition injuries because,
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
yeah, also surface type, so they can try and learn something from it.
So it's actually data capturing. That's
Yes.
really, that's great. Makes the sport better in the long run.
Euthanasia, obviously humane euthanasia. And what do you do with when your horses retire? You know, they've served you through
That's
the competition life, and now what happens to them when they retire?
That's actually really wonderful to see that that's a discussion that's being brought up,
Yeah.
and we're tracking it. And it's, you know, I think shining a light on these things just makes everyone behave perhaps a little more ethically.
I think so, and I think some of it at some levels I think is ignorant, and some of it at other levels I think is this will to succeed without thinking in terms of your horse. And then the FEI also label education has been very important in welfare, because when you educate people, then they understand the reasons behind certain regulations.
We've discussed the variance in like the body condition score of horses, and what's acceptable for one breed or discipline would not be acceptable for the other, and why is that? I think that's a great point.
Yeah. So the FEI is very keen on education, and they've opened that platform, the what do they call it, the campus, and anybody can go into it.
FEI campus.
Yes, you don't have to be an FEI member to do so. And they have things on biosecurity, they have things on passports, they have things on stabling, they have things on catastrophic injuries. I mean, they really, I think, are brilliant the way they put these things out, and not just to FEI members. And
Opening it up to horse lovers.
yeah, and just to go back to this welfare course, when I started it in 2018, and we actually got solidarity funding to do this.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And we asked, and they were very happy that this was across the board. So it wasn't just for FEI sport, it was for all the disciplines. And we started it with the welfare courses, and we also did it for the veterinarians. And I think the plan going forward is to, as the FEI have FEI vets, we would like to go forward and have SAEF vets. And we went around the country. And I think the idea behind it is that whilst it would be ideal to have a vet at every show, it's not physically possible or economically viable. But there are a lot of people who attend shows, and we've had the stewards, we've had judges, we've had all these people come to the welfare course because the SAEF created a new official called a welfare, which was a veterinary welfare officer. And they were taught about how to check passports, how to look at tack, surface arenas, stabling, handling of horses, all of that. So they could be the eyes on the ground, and that they could go to a show and assist, particularly in where you have, 2,000 horses arriving over a weekend like Sinisa. It's impossible for all the stewards to get around, but they can go there and go around and look for things and then educate people. And I think it was a brilliant idea. And then, unfortunately, COVID hit.
So this is the resurrection of that program.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And who can apply to do the course?
Anybody.
And your first course is running, is it the first one? That's running next
for,
weekend?
For this year. For this
Okay.
year. It's going to be not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. And I would have to ask Mariette. I think we've got 3 planned for Johannesburg and then around the country.
And Mariette, there's been quite a demand for this from around the country as far as I gather, and they asked and the SAEF has answered.
Yeah, so I think we've got 2 courses planned for Natal. We've got 2 planned for Cape Town, Eastern Cape. It will be one in Cape Town, one in Eastern Cape. Yeah, it's been phenomenal, the response that we had from all over. And I mean, even Sheila, just to get back to you about Sinisa, for instance, we're very like, I can't say anti-welfare officers, you know what I mean? But I've done one, for instance, in Badplaas about 2 months ago. And the response that I've got from that has been absolutely phenomenal. They're so now that they actually now phone us and ask, can we please spare a welfare officer to come to our shows? Not that I have enough, because most of them are currently stewards or judges. That's why we need to train these people to assist.
But I
Because
think
the
that
demand is so great.
I think that fits in with this development. That
Absolutely.
Salisa can have development and they can have volunteers.
Not even as an FEI sport, as a
Exactly.
subsector of us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at the time we did it, we were doing it for everybody. I mean, we initially, obviously, it was the known disciplines, but I think it should be right across the board.
And especially Sinisa is a cause that's close to my heart because of kids.
Yeah.
It's wonderful if they can grow up with that in their sphere.
And actually, some of the top structure management people are attending the course this week, the next
lovely.
weekend.
Oh,
So
wow.
that is like, wow. We've got people from the horse care unit.
Oh, that's brilliant,
The
Mariette.
lady has contacted me and said, can they please send 2 officers? I'm like, by all means, send them.
That's great.
Well, I think this is, I mean, it's so nice to hear that people are now recognizing how important this is.
Yes.
And so many people are wanting to learn more about it. And I mean, I get lots of telephone calls and people can phone me at any time. I will always try
At their own peril. I'm joking.
She'll answer. Doesn't matter what time, night, morning.
I do.
She'll answer.
But I also want to tell you about what I think is a wonderful story. So probably about 18 years, I employed somebody who was very keen to join me. And we sent him on a kennel assistance course. He did a hygiene course. He attended the welfare officer's course. I then said to him, why don't you try and be a testing technician? And I thought I'd try and help him and let him use my computer, but you have to use your computer, so there's no cheating in this exam. He did it on his own, passed the exam, became a testing technician, has done brilliantly well. For the first time flew somewhere to do testing, and then after that, couldn't get him on the same plane. So I said, well, you're going to have to get yourself to the airport. Did that, arrived at the foreign venue, Ubered around, went to see the coast of the sea, never seen before, Ubered to the destination. I am so proud of him. It's just...
And I think that speaks to life development. It's not just this career pathway that we're speaking about. It's opening doors meaningfully for people.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful, that's development. That's what we should be looking towards.
I think also the people must want to learn. And I think when you encourage them and show them, I think there is so many people out there who want to do it.
Yeah.
It's that first step, I think, that destigmatizes the rest of the process often for people.
Yeah.
There's a lovely, you talk about the FEI campus though, and I wonder, not grooms, but I wonder how many other horse owners or riders have actually, if they know about it, have gone onto it. And there's a great quote that says, in the age of technology, ignorance is a choice. Where we've got access to all of this. If you're not maximizing that and helping, I think it's different for us where we've got access to smartphones and free Wi-Fi, but certainly for our staff, and Ren will be moving on to you shortly, enabling them to have that and extending to them. I love that you at least offered him access to your laptop, even if he couldn't use it and you had to make a plan B. But I think that's something we just need to be conscious of.
Yeah. But I am really so proud that he went the whole route, and he's always asking questions. He's wanting to know what other course he can attend, what more can he do. So I'm really very, very proud of him.
That's really wonderful. Mariette?
That's I wanted to say that and Trimor is brilliant. He is so helpful.
Is his name
It
Trimor?
shows
Is his name Trimor?
Yes.
No.
I didn't want to mention that.
That's magical.
he's a trooper. He's really, really phenomenal.
Trimor by name,
And
Trimor by
then
nature.
the FEI campus is so informative and it's so user friendly. Anyone can go onto it, click on the buttons, and it is information on your fingertips, at your fingertips.
We'll share that as a link on our socials. I think it's well worth
I
exploring.
will also try and put it onto our website.
Thanks. That would be
get
great.
through.
I think it's also important because I go as a veterinary delegate to a lot of these shows, and at the completion of the show, you have to submit a report.
Oh, that's interesting.
And they're sticklers for biosecurity.
Okay.
Which really worries me because I think we've evaded the problems that they had in Europe with equine herpes virus. But I do know that UNSIP has probably been closed in the last 2 years 4 times because of herpes. And we think it's not going to happen to us. And we need to be proactive and prevent it and have a contingency plan and do the biosecurity.
Maybe that's the next podcast we need to discuss is the biosecurity,
Yeah.
because I think to your point, we are very relaxed about that in
Exactly.
South Africa.
Yeah.
Sheila, with regards to the welfare course as well, is there any cost to attending this?
As far as I'm
No
aware,
cost?
no cost at all.
That's great. And then Mariette, once you're a qualified welfare officer, where do people find your details? Do they contact the SAEF if they want a welfare officer at a show?
I think the idea would
They
be
contact me. Yeah, and then I will allocate welfare officers. So also want to try and get everyone to get to a venue to do a show. No, so not like only 1 or 2 people, you know what I mean? So I'm not trying to rotate them. But yeah, they're welcome to contact me and I will try and get them an officer. If there's lately it shows are so many shows on a weekend, it's quite difficult, but we'll do our utmost to get welfare officers to them. The new Sheila, I don't know if you agree with me, but the new people that's doing the course, obviously, if they're not a steward or a judge or something, they will have to, I think, shadow
Okay.
people in the
We-
beginning, you know what I mean? And maybe do another course or something.
Yeah, we did that as a practical where we took them and we went through passports and we had them saying,
Yeah.
we look at this horse, so we think there's a welfare issue. So I think there must be a practical element to it. And I also think ultimately, and I agree that they've got to have some practical experience, but we want to get welfare officers around the country so that the people who have shows in Nelspruit and the people who have shows
Are supported.
are supported and have people. And I think rather that we should, and the SAF should develop a list, an officials list, a welfare officers officials list, SAF, you know,
A database.
That's what I'm
yes, have a database so that if you doing a show, you can first of all look and see if there's somebody in your area, or you can contact Mariette and see who
I
may be
agree.
closer.
Yes, I think that'll be helpful.
So I've started a database.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's why I need those names from the George region. But yeah, I've got a database going now.
So, Mariette's just gently throwing some shade there. That's great. Moving on to the next important thing, and Ren, is the technical term the groom's education program?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what.
And
it is.
and this has been something that you guys have been looking towards promoting for quite a while now.
Yeah, I think, we all forget about the grooms, and they're like the most important thing in the sport. I mean, without them, who looks after your horse when, who up and about, they are important. And I think a lot of them just don't get the knowledge that they really want. The guys that have come through they're soaking it up, whatever it is.
They want to learn.
Yes, even the experienced grooms, they learn something new, and sometimes they have something to teach us. So I mean, it's
The experienced grooms. No,
They've
and
been
Ren and
there,
I've
they've
experienced
been
this.
there. They
They know so much.
and I think, if we can identify some that can go forward and teach, then why not? I mean, that's development, isn't it? That's what it's about.
I think the assumption also, and maybe this is something to just highlight for horse owners, is there's a certain assumption when when you get a groom perhaps at a yard, that the groom knows how to do X, Y, and Z. And I've had it before, and I know you have, that an owner will say, well, I've asked the groom to lunge my horse today. And often the question is missed, does your groom know how to lunge? No, it sounds ridiculous.
No.
But there is this assumption. So what does the groom's course that you've rolled out so far entail?
So it's the basic stable management, obviously cleaning stable, managing your stable, keeping it clean, hygiene, flies, just managing that it's, and making it
Biosecurity friendly.
obviously. No, and just that they use their time, that they work more
Efficiently.
and not harder, if that makes sense. That they become more aware of what's going on and that they can work efficiently in the yard. And so stable management, horse welfare, a lot of how to handle a horse.
Safety.
Safety around the horse. Like the main thing that we go on them is safety around the horse.
That's great.
Don't
Really
don't
important.
just go in there, the horse, and pat it on the bum and think that you're gonna, don't run up to a horse in a paddock and try
I'm
and
sorry,
catch
and I'm
it.
laughing because I do
We know
that,
it's happened,
like,
and I think
oh,
a lot of the grooms, they get hired, and like you say, you assume they know how to do everything, and then, or it's a new guy and he gets thrown in with so and so, and he must
Think
do
with
it,
them.
and a lot of them. The first course we did, they were like, please teach us how to handle the horse correctly. Give us better knowledge on managing the horse. Stallions, not even stallions, just normal horses. How do we lead it to the paddock with it, not dragging us off or
us
know,
dragging them.
exactly. And also, what is my horse saying? He's got his ears back.
I
What
love
is
that.
he doing? Not
great.
just walk in the step. Like, be aware of your horse's body language, because if you're aware of that, you can immediately say, oh, that is not normal behavior for my horse today. He's
Sick.
not feeling well, or something's bothering him, or he's sore, or something like that.
And I'm sure as a vet, those subclinical warning signs, I've heard you before ask people like, when did you notice the horse was off? It's not a temperature. It's not a swelling.
And they work with them all day. So they
them.
must.
I mean, to give you an example, you go to see a colic and it's an impaction. I have stable yard managers phoning me now. My horse got colic. It only did one stool last night. And when I go and I speak to the grooms, how many does it do? Or how many did it do? No, we only saw one. How many does it normally do? So, I mean, that's an early warning system.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
It's really an early warning
that's
system.
the
They can report in the morning.
The insurance companies should sponsor your course.
No, that's one of the things I said. What do you? So one of the first questions is, what do you do when you start work in the morning? Feed the horses. So I said, oh, and you're feeding that horse and he's sick. What's going to happen? Oh, I said, you walk past your stable. You know your horse. If his head is not out there, it's in the back, and normally his head is out. That's like your first sign, and eventually it will become something. It just naturally happens. Oh, that's not a normal thing for my horse to do. That's, let me check what's happening in the stable. Let me not feed him. Let me call the bath or whoever, that. So those are like and straight away they can say, oh, my horse is not right. His leg's swollen. I don't know what he did all night. Stables all over. That's like their first sign. So for me, the horse handling and being able to be aware of your horse is more important than how do you clean a stable. I mean, everyone can manage to clean a stable as long as it's clean and the horse, there's nothing in there that the horse will injure the horse. So the horse tack, how to put on a bridle without the horse throwing its head up and around. What's the nicest way to do that? And a lot of them come in and the horse is up in the air and they can't do it. Like, just get it to put its head down. The easiest thing in the world. And then you'll find
it's just
the horse
education.
Just education.
And
like,
it creates a happier horse. It's ultimately a welfare issue.
yeah, and you can tell. I mean, it's all of that. I mean, and the grooms are the ones, and they want to learn. They really, really want to learn. And then basic feeding, watering, why is watering, good clean water important?
Why do they need
Why
grass?
is it important to keep the paddock clean? Why don't you want to leave old grass lying around for the horse to eat? All those little things. And don't eat cut grass from the lawnmower. Don't feed it to your horse. Those little things that
Feed it to the sheep.
Oh,
Get a sheep.
even worse.
I'll find barn buy a sheep too.
And then so tacking up, it's a nice way to. Does your tack fit? Suddenly your horse
Lovely.
is trying to bite you. Why? What's going on? Check
Oh,
the
Renae, I
tack.
love this. This is such
Just,
insightful.
do things that
important.
like little things like that. So and yeah.
I think a lot of riders could attend this. A lot of owners. Not really. It's just
Well, that's what Mariette and I were talking about it. It's not just for your grooms. It's for anybody that wants to get a better understanding of horses and how you work with them correctly and
Mm.
humanely, or the friendlier way to work with them. And one of the things is also teach your horse to behave at home. Don't wait till it gets to a show to now try and
Solve
teach
the
it
problem.
not to drag you off. And I'm like, you know, a lot of the grooms, they sit there the whole day and you get tired. I mean, and you get grumpy, and now your horse is dragging you all over the place because you haven't managed him at home correctly. And now
It's not the horse's fault. It's not the
horse's
groom's fault.
It's not the groom's fault. The rider's shouting because, you know, so little things like that. They need to speak up a little bit for themselves, you know, and say the horse is not happy for some reason, and be able to do that. And then basic lunging. I mean, the lunging is
It's a fine art.
it's a fine art. And a lot of them want to do it, and you can teach them the basics, the safest basics. But again, it's all about safety. And one of the other things we said to them, if you don't feel safe around a horse, get a helmet. Ask somebody
Fantastic.
for a helmet. If you
I'm really
don't
glad
feel
you brought
safe,
that up.
just
Boots,
do it.
gloves.
Just look after yourself, because at the end of the day, if you are broken, you can't work, your family, you know, and, you know, they're just going to. So I think it's just.
I think if you think like at the Spanish riding school, how long it takes you to be qualified to lunge one of the horses there. And it's something that we think we're going to cover in one afternoon.
Right.
It's crazy. It's a continuous development. And to your point, you know, hopefully with enough funding, a lunging program is something you could run
No, it can
for
be a whole
months on
different-
end.
yeah.
You know, it's really important. And especially, I think, for how much riders depend on it.
Yeah,
You know, it's a
an
very
important
casual thing.
part.
My horse can lunge every Monday and Wednesday.
Yeah, and all the grooms think, oh, it's just to make them tired. It's like, no, there's a purpose to lunging. Yes, some horses need a little bit of exercise, but it's not just racing around and round. It's there's a purpose. You need to be able to.
To develop your athletes.
Yeah.
But she also covers the grooming technique and what
Yes.
brushes are used for certain parts of the body and you know what I mean? So
And plaiting.
it's very
They all want to
comprehensive.
know how
that's
to
lovely.
plait,
Oh,
and
that's
then they want to
good.
plait the tail. And so I give them the traditional way, and then I show them different options, and they're like, wow, didn't know you could do
I've
other
seen them
things.
getting really creative. I taught some grooms how to do quarter markers, and they come out with basically ndebele patterns down the high. It's incredible when and it brings a
they
South
want
African
to-
flavor to our sport.
And they want to make their horses look good, so they want to be able to do it properly, and that's
I think another thing that I found is that quite often when I go to stables, I don't always see the owner because they're not there. So your communication is with the groom. And I have always, over the years, said to the groom, this is what I think's wrong with the horse, and this is what I want to
That's
do
nice.
for the following reason. Because that's they're the carer for that horse. And I think they need to know what's going on, and you can explain it to them. And I never forget years ago when they used to have this this award at Derby where they recognised people who do long service or whatever it was.
okay. Yeah, I remember that.
You remember that? And
Longest-
there was a groom that worked for Gail Foxcroft, and then they asked the groom, "What do you like, and what's important? Who's your favourite person?" And the one groom said, "Dr. Higgerty." They said, "Why?" And the groom said, "Because she always explains." And I was so humbled by that. It's so important to
And
the
it's so
people
easy
look
to
after the
overlook.
horses.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's absolutely imperative, and
It
I
is.
think I hope that other vets, but also farriers, dentists, owners, riders, saddle fitters, that we do start to include them in this and grow and expand on your mandate.
Yeah, and the grooms are, without them, like really, there is no equine industry. You, me, everyone would have to be doing their own work, and
It's one of the
We don't
reasons
have
that
the
horse
time
sport
to
is
do
so affordable and accessible in South Africa, is because we've got the labor force that we have, and we need to preserve that.
yeah, and the more we can develop them and educate them, the more they can go and develop and educate the next person that they meet and they want to learn. And the other thing we say, you know, we're going to do this course. This is the very basic one, but then we will
Expand.
do the next
Is
one
that the
and
plan?
I
Okay.
mean, ultimately, and they have to write a little exam at the end, and they're like, panic, you know. But it's
Is literacy a barrier? Can we do an oral exam?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we have done, and also the language is also a bit of a
Absolutely.
So we try to identify somebody that can help us with the language barrier, so that everyone gets the same level of education, you know.
That's lovely.
Often there is a groom on the course that's got a bit more knowledge than the others, and he can help to explain it. And yeah, it's.
And what do the grooms get at the end of the course?
They get a certificate and recognition of their.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
I think the recognition is really important, and I think for all of us, it's so wonderful to have your inputs recognized in some format and to take something away. I know it shouldn't matter, but it's the same as riders feel about getting a rosette.
They want to see that and show people this is what we did and this is what we achieved, and it, you know, going forward for them as well. They might leave that yard, but they have something to take with them to say
For future employment,
For
you've
future
got a
employment.
standard.
exactly.
sometimes it's
What
hard
is
to get a reference.
standardized and not just have, you know, we have grooms courses, there are grooms courses, but if you start with some kind of standardized system, you can grow from that.
So could we, for argument's sake, call this like grooms level 1 or module 1?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
kind of.
So this is our entry-level course.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And the plan is to take that nationwide and simultaneously or subsequently expand it to high levels.
Exactly.
That's great.
And I mean, like with instance, the exams that we did, there was 3 grooms, Renae?
Yeah.
They couldn't read or write. So Renae had 2 and I had 1 and I had 2 that we did the exam with them orally, and they were brilliant. They knew exactly what they wanted to say, but they couldn't put it on paper, or they couldn't even read the question. So they mustn't be scared to come to the course because maybe they can't understand or read or write. We assist.
That's lovely. How can grooms join one of the courses?
Speak to
Mariette?
contact.
We put
On
it out on Facebook, and it's also now at this stage word of mouth. I had a groom phone me from
that's great.
Grahamstown.
Directly. That's amazing.
We had guys from Onderstepoort.
A
They
groom
saw
phone
the
from
course.
Grahamstown to say that his boss will give us the yard and 15 grooms if we can come do a course there.
That's wonderful. Oh, Mariette, that's brilliant. That's really lovely to hear. Yeah.
It's been phenomenal. It's
And
actually
sorry,
been
what
very
is your
good.
email address? Is it National Development Officer at SAEF?
No, it's just development at saef.org.za.
Wonderful.
Development at saef.org.za.
Mariette, is there anything else that you would like to add to the discussion?
No, just thank you very much for having us.
I'm really looking forward to touching base in another 6 months and seeing where all these programs are, how many roadshow Sheilagh's gone to, how many more trimores there are. It's really exciting. And it uplifts I think it uplifts the entire community. You know, if you see at shows like the World Cup qualifying series, it's incredible to see the quality of grooms that are on those podiums with their riders and owners to collect prizes. And they're grooms that are well known, and if your more novice riders have access to a groom like that, the groom does become part of the management team.
And the FEI promote them, and they have the best groom award every year.
Yes.
They vote for it. Yeah.
Yes.
A lot of them also wanted to
And
know
that's
how
what
to
we
build a
aiming
course, and you know those kind of things.
I can make one suggestion, is that I think when you do it perhaps at a higher level, you should include some very basic veterinary stuff in it.
So
I
we
was
do
thinking, could they do
discuss
the
briefly
welfare
on it.
course?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do discuss briefly in an emergency. What do you do? You know,
Call someone. Call Sheelagh.
Firstly, who do you call? And then it's like if the blood is gushing, put pressure. If it's, you know, when to hose, when not to hose, kind of thing. And when it's like run, call for help, or and what do you do while you're waiting for the vet?
I think it was you who had a groom though, who I'm sure it was you, who Renae was getting WhatsApps from the groom, and it was pictures of the horse's manure. And he was saying he wasn't quite happy with the shade of it. And she was saying, okay, we've gone too far. Too far. I don't, you know. But yes, that is the level of, you know, what's a warning sign, basically.
Yeah,
So they could do the welfare officer course.
So there was 3 grooms from OP that joined us on our first course. Can you remember, Renae?
Yes.
Trevor and someone else. There was 3
of
guys.
them, yeah.
They've now contacted me to come and do the welfare course as well. but they work at OP.
I mean,
So
that's,
that was,
but again,
that
it just
was
gives them options.
Well, it was
And
their own
it-
initiative. They
Mm.
contacted Mariette and they were like, we want to improve our education. How do we go about it?
this is
And
great.
they brought themselves. They did.
And Mariette,
made a plan.
and I'm talking about, it doesn't have to be something that's in development, and I understand if you can't talk about things that we haven't got firm plans for, but what would you like to see happening from a course perspective in development over the next 3 to 5 years?
to have another try more.
Many trimors.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just, someone that
Mm.
comes from nowhere to work all the way up the
Mm.
levels, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
It's the sign of a
and
system that's working.
we're going to assist them, and yeah, it's going to
I
take
think-
time, I think.
It also just
But
sounds like
we'll get
somebody
there.
who's solution orientated instead of problem orientated. And I think
Quite.
you know what I mean? You can always find an obstacle if you want to.
Yeah. I must say, I had tears in my eyes earlier. I'm so proud of what he's done, all on his own. With my, my advice and assistance, and I've helped him where I can, but he's achieved and passed exam.
I think what I take away from you, Sheelagh, is that it's at very little cost to yourself, but it was at great benefit to him, giving him facilities to access to start the journey. And I think that's, like I say, it can be as simple as giving someone laptop access or
Yeah, I gave him,
Wi-Fi.
when he couldn't use mine, I then provided him with the airtime to go and do it on his own computer.
No, that's how we can support.
But this lady that I was talking about, that was on the group, the coaches group. So I've arranged for her to be collected at Crowthorne to come in, because she had to come by taxi up to Crowthorne, and then from Crowthorne she had to Uber, to Bolu College. But then Maxine's grooms were on the course, and we arranged that she'll drop her and fetch her at the spa. Anyway, so the next day I get there, and she's so excited, but no, Renae, she wouldn't touch a horse, she wouldn't leave the horse.
She's terrified.
The next day she told the grooms, no, she'll get to Bolu herself. When I got there, she was there at 7 o'clock in the morning. She helped the groom there to groom and to clean stables. And then when I stopped, she says, can you please just take a video? So I said, sure, what video must I take? She was leading the horses to the paddock. And she was so proud of herself achieving that.
I think in a sport, Mariette, where the barriers to entry can be so overwhelming, it just takes someone who's going to give you a little bit of an opportunity.
A gap, yeah, absolutely.
Sheelagh,
Absolutely.
what's next for the welfare officer course besides going cross countrying?
Well, I'd like to I don't think one should reinvent the wheel, and I think the FEI have done it extremely well, is to have veterinarians that you have a database and show holding bodies can call on those veterinarians, so that we speak with one voice. And the whole idea of this education system is that you don't have one vet saying that's okay and the other vet saying no, it's not okay. And that when they go to shows, they all know what to look for. They know what the horse should be doing and what it's allowed. And I go to shows and the horse has an accident, and then they tell me, well, the vet said it would never be tested at this level, so I've been giving it this. And a lot of it is ignorance. But we need to consider the welfare of the animal, the horse.
Absolutely. I think I hope it's pulling through more and more. And I'm trying to think what the exact website is, but it's the Equine Ethics and Wellbeing Commission.
Yes.
I hope that it is, to your point, bringing through that one voice and saying we're not doing it to be jerks or to be prohibitive, or we're doing it because these actions can result in these devastating, catastrophic consequences for the animals that we profess to love.
But I also think Tokyo was a big wake-up call. But I think that whilst the social media is a very powerful tool, it can be taken out of context. And it can be very damaging. You can make something look terrible when in fact it might have been a very innocent.
But if we've got good education,
exactly,
to your point, it'll circumvent all of that, hopefully. I'm personally all for the streakers. What is it, the vegan strike? I love seeing streakers at a Longines show. I think it adds an air of excitement to everything. I support that movement. Renae, for the grooms courses, so after you've educated everyone nationwide, are we looking forward to a grooms database at any point, or is that something?
I think that's a really good idea, because a lot of people, like, the grooms either move on or whatever happens, it's South Africa. I mean, crime is a real thing. And they want a groom. So if there's a database and a reference for that groom, then and they can look at the results of our little exams or whatever that we do with them, and I think that would help people in there.
And I think standardizing it just helps that.
Yes, then
career.
everyone, there's a certain level that they know they're going to get. It's not just some random person who says they've had experience, but they have none. So
I'm hoping the disciplines I would love, and it is something that I know each discipline has spoken about showing again. To your point, Mariette is very successful about hosting grooms classes, in-hand classes. And Tobias Ngwenya, I think, was in an episode, in an issue of the Horse and Hound magazine after Horse of the Year, which is incredible. I mean, it's a leading international publication, but it would be lovely to see, as with show jumping and I think dressage do it, rewarding the grooms. It would be great to see them on the entry forms as well, and just see that representation pulling through. Anything else you would like to add?
Can we have another podcast so we can talk more about welfare
and biosecurity?
And biosecurity.
It's important. It's if you think about what happened with the herpes virus, it was devastating in Europe.
Can I please just say something else?
It depends.
On passports,
Okay.
Sheelagh, it's a big problem. Like, for instance, with schools, they don't have passports, some of the horses. So now, with the welfare officers, they're going to be taught how to read and understand a passport and how to do the identification. And I said to Sheelagh, we must call it passport for dummies, because some of our top riders don't know when flu vax are out of sync, and when a primary should be given and not be given.
I think that is a really valid discussion.
So we're going to do a step-by-step thing on passports.
I think also speaking to, and I know, Sheelagh, we've discussed this with the African horse sickness crisis in one of the previous podcasts, is people understanding why the passport's important. And again, it's maybe, I don't want to say the word ignorance, but it's not understanding the value of a passport, of proving ownership and medical care. So I think that's definitely, we've got a long employment future for Sheelagh.
Thank you. Can I go into retirement and just come and work with you?
Just come here and bring marmalade. Okay, thank you. If you've just joined us tonight, I hope that you go back and that you listen to this podcast. We discussed the South African Equestrian Federation's development initiative. We spoke about some of the fantastic programs that they're running with Dr. Sheelagh Higgerty, that is the Welfare Officer program, and Renae Erasmus from Equestrian, who is running the Grooms program. And we're looking forward to seeing a lot more of this from them in the future. Next week, we will be speaking to Clinton from TAC Transport, Clinton Grosset, about how to truck your own horse safely in your two-berth horse box. So be sure to join us for that next week, Wednesday at 7 o'clock.